on YouTube and Instagram. Looks like YouTube is coming in. And yep, we're streaming on both YouTube and the Scram. On the Scram. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Kurt. Welcome, everybody. We have another exciting episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, the post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic that we have been making for a long time, and we are getting back to some pencils and inks here live on stage. I'm just starting to lay out in blue line pencil, page 22, I believe, and I'm getting here to the part where the nun, well, the nuns that run the orphanage / brothel are about to be invaded. Well, that's what happens. We're gonna have to explain that on the page. Look, there's no more government agencies that are helping. How you gonna pay for these kids?
Yeah, but you're saying the kids aren't in the brothel industry. It's the nuns that are doubling as prostitutes in order to keep food on the table and clean clothes on the backs of these poor little wretches.
Well, there's a lot going on in the futuristic, world. We call it the end of the world timeline or the turbo verse. But in the year 2240s, things are pretty bad, and the Sisters of Charity are, they're trying to take in all these, kids that are, orphans or broke or scared, or they're small or babies, and the bigger kids take care of the younger kids. They really help out, but the women of this order are a bunch of nuns who run a brothel for a bunch of different reasons. Number one is there's not a lot of couples anymore because the pleasure robot has replaced the kind of nuclear family, and so there's a lot of men out there that are seeking the time with a real woman, and that's an opportunity to raise revenue. And the stigma is long gone at this point, because another thing that's highly sought after is going to be male semen, and that's so that they could have test tube babies, they could have babies and continue the race. But after the megapocalypse, which is when the De Huberton family decides to mass slaughter everybody in the big cities, you have a problem. Everything kind of goes to shit. So the old order, where the birth rate was really declining, and families were declining. We needed somebody to have kids, and so there was a lot of couples in the resistance. But on the other side, the corporate side, there's just these small little kind of mini city areas that are maintained by the corporation, and everybody else is just a freelance kind of male, paramilitary soldier / incel guy, or mercenary, and they just have pleasure bots. So there's no more couples, and they need children to continue the resistance, and they need children to continue humanity. And that's how badly the birth rate starts declining. And so it's kind of like a war of attrition, because there's lots and lots of wasteland out there now, and there's plenty of space for people to, to be and to live, if only there was people. But
it's an interesting another like layer, sub-layer, or subcontext, if you want to get all cool and everything, and the and how to write comics or write stories. But it's kind of the first time I'm now like thinking, how important, a portion of this story, let's say a chunk of the story, because relationships have become, let's say, nuclear family. Like, so the nuclear family is pretty eradicated at this time, because you had said, there's just prostitution, there's no stigma anymore. Men, are militarizing, and then they're being, offered as compensation a pleasure bot, basically the companion. But in prostitution, there's statistics nowadays that I think it's like they've even come up with like even like 60% is non-coitus related. It's literally like cuddling and just being held. You know what I mean? Like the just the lack of somebody having physical contact with another human being, and heterosexual, let's say, for what even we're kind of dealing with is from there. But in order to survive in a post-apocalyptic society that's still operating outside of, let's say, social norms. And, this also is a really good plug for the 6 issues of what we're making here as the Turbo Pit Fighter story is, I still like my original play on description, which was a post-apocalyptic romance story. But it's really about companionship between this power, strong female pit fighter, and then this trophy girl who is literally just, our identifier of innocence and femininity and those types of things. So, it was just that update, Jake, kind of really rocked me in like, wow, there's so many different aspects to Turbo Pit Fighter than just making a post-apocalyptic sci-fi thriller comic book. So just want to keep reminding people.
So I want to bring this to your attention.
Yep.
This is real. This is nowadays. How U.S. households have changed from 1960 to 2023. And
wow.
You can see that this little slice here in the top, this is households with unmarried partners, roommates, or adult relatives. That means, people living to just live together. Went from
cohabitate.
From 8% in 1960 to 16% in nowadays. Single parents went from 4.4% to 7.4%, which is surprisingly low to me, actually. But I thought it was higher. But 7.4% of households are single parents. Then this big declining slice right here is married parents. 44% in 1960 down to 18% nowadays. And then most of that rise is attributed to single, no kids. These are households with one person living in there. And that went from 13% to 29% today. And then married, no kids has pretty much been the same. It went from 30 to 29%. So this is not just like a big shift over the last couple of decades, but this is still going on. And remember, like, we just came through the pandemic. People's minds are still messed up from that. It really did change, how people, kind of, see each other. Like, do I want to move in with somebody? And, we haven't talked about a big part of this is housing costs and the, prohibitive housing costs, right? I have 2 daughters in their early 20s right now. So I have no idea when they're going to be able to leave the house, because finding a place, it's going to have to be some kind of roommate situation, unless they get serious with somebody. But my girls have a lot of friends, believe it or not, that are getting married so much earlier than our generation.
Yeah.
But like they're going to weddings and stuff already.
Yeah.
So in terms of our story, yeah, I mean we're going to just assume that the trend continues, and in real life we don't talk too much about pleasure bots in real life. We know that Elon Musk is coming out with a line of robot servants. We'll talk about it more later. Not just Elon, but some other companies. Boston Dynamics is a pretty, significant supplier of robots to the corporate world, customizable robots. Sony has, robots that they sell, mostly overseas, that do different tasks like caring for the elderly or helping people upstairs. The Sony has I think it's called the Asimov, and there's plenty of other companies that are about to release robots for lots of different tasks, like mowing the lawn, clearing the snow. People have already seen Roomba on TV. Some people might have a Roomba in the house to just vacuum the floor and vacuum the rug. But there's going to be robots big and small. There's going to be robots that go outside of office towers to clean the windows. We're going to be seeing robots that go inside pipes to clean pipes out, to unclog things. You're going to see, and then getting down to the micro level, we're going to be seeing robots that go inside the body. We already are, frankly. They already have demos of this, and they're going to be like, looking for something, identifying things, markers. They already have these pill. They have a pill that I just saw this on another one of these forums. There's a pill that a hospital can give you that is checkable by scanning your skin and it tells the hospital whether or not you took your pill. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
So yeah, because it sets off an alert, and totally harmless, inert, biomarker alert that tells the medical providers whether or not this is in your system. So it doesn't matter if you speak English, doesn't matter if you're conscious or unconscious, and they say that this pill or this marker is going, and I actually had this as part of the story, but I had it as part of DNA. But it's going to be able to you touch a sensor and it opens up a gate. You touch an ignition to your car and it starts your car. It's going to be like that, and and that technology is already on our doorstep. So writing the story has opened my eyes to the world in a lot of ways, that I hadn't realized before. But but this technology is on the march, and it's going to change the way families are. It's going to change, like one big thing is life expectancy. Kurt and I were talking offline about the super agers that are coming. In the story, we have sentience, which are basically, organs that are being kept alive, thanks to, robots and machinery. But that, but this is coming in real life in a lot of ways. We talked about the innovations in biomarkers, where they can age your organs and they can give you anti-aging drugs while it's still on the early side. I think that there's going to be a mad scramble for that. If anybody listening to us, it plays the stock market, you might want to look into your anti-aging stocks, anti-aging companies, drugs, raw material. But then you also have, the AI bit, which is going to be, how medicine is going to be able to turn, vast amounts of data into concrete recommendations for individuals. And then you're going to also have the machine part of it, which we just spoke about, which is going to be like, I mean, we already have everything from artificial knees to artificial hips to artificial teeth. We have artificial hearing. We have artificial everything now. But it's going to be like, I mean, I think we're just at the dawn right now where, paraplegics are going to be able to walk on mechanical legs if they have the money. Where a pair of artificial lungs are going to extend life. You might not be able to move around. It might be more like an iron lung type of thing, but they can definitely keep you alive. And, and I believe that they will be able to make them mobile and portable, at least to an extent. Hearts,
so Jake,
organs, the list goes on. Yeah. What's up?
So King Megatrip, which is actually one of our good friends, Matt King, is on the air here. He just asked if we are going to be attending the IC3 in March 2025. And I said, yes, sir, we will be there. So rooms booked, plans in the works. Jake and I will definitely be putting more and more discussion out about when we approach that time, but
yeah, I'll be there.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll be there Saturday, and I'll get there Saturday, and
I have Friday. I'll be there Friday because I'm basically setting up the booth, so I've got like a big wire book, like a bookshelf kind of thing, case, like rack, and then we'll go from there. I know too, I'm going to be doing like a couple weeks prior, like getting people to order their books from me ahead of time so I can then just bring them and then give them to people. So I don't have to buy a large stock because I don't pre-print my comics. I do print on demand, but like I said, we'll talk more and more as we get there. I sent you last week, or maybe it was like a week and a half ago, a movie, which is very hard to find online. I actually borrowed the DVD from a dear friend of mine that I just celebrated his 85th birthday last night. Happy birthday, Sensei. And Colossus Forbin Project is his favorite movie. And we always get to talking about it because it is so laden with what's happening right now. Made in 1967, and it's a mega computer that is turned on in the United States, and it is to run primarily defensively for us against the Russians, the USSR, and then the Colossus, the machine, ends up finding another system called Guardian in the USSR, and they end up communicating, and everything goes to shit.
Yeah, this was. Thank you. So it's nice nowadays when somebody can send you the actual movie. So Kurt sent me a compression link, and it had the full movie on the other end. I watched it when I was out of work for a while in the recent weeks, and it's a very interesting movie. I thought it was 69. Maybe. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it.
Let me double check that.
But it's a very early imagining.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yes. It is 69. Okay.
1970 actually. So.
Well, yeah, it said 69 on the thing in Roman numerals on the credit, but it probably didn't come out until. But yeah, the idea of these racks and like huge arrays of supercomputers that are built into this mountain. That idea is real now. The idea of artificial intelligence, that is real now. And the idea of the government using it to rely on for defensive purposes, that is real now. What this story kind of was a little unbelievable was how quickly they just turned everything over. From
it's like in the first 5 minutes that's the whole beginning of the movie.
Yeah, they show the president announcing on TV that from now on we don't have to worry about anything, it's all going to be taken care of. And so, and they had a great actor for the president. He kind of like was like a little mini Kennedy, right? And
yes, JFK, yeah.
And the casting was pretty good on Forbin. There was this woman, I think her name was Linda Clark, or her right here, Linda Clark or Susan Clark or something. She was in Hollywood for a long time. It was a B movie. Some of the lines were a little bit campy, which I liked, but
I did too.
But basically, without giving too much away, it was a great thought experiment on what happens when the computers take over. Yeah.
Can you move your phone away from your microphone, because that's pretty loud.
My phone is not near my microphone.
No, really? Holy Christmas! That was like.
You mean this? This is not.
I could still hear the ring.
Oh yeah, well, that's coming over my laptop.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I got it. I'm on my my mini Air now. I got to figure out how to set those so it doesn't disturb us. But so that was basically my daughter asking, "Did you get Mom a photo frame yet?" Yeah, great movie. I really got captivated. Like when you're in it, you're really like wondering what's going to happen next and next and next. It's kind of slow moving. Obviously, for people for today, understand. Anytime you watch one of these old movies, it's slow moving. Where you see a scene where somebody's actually just walking out of a car or something. And nowadays it's like, why wouldn't they cut that out? All these like Gen Xers or millennials are like, why don't they just cut that out and get to the part where they're already talking inside?
Right.
It's called pacing. It's good. The ending, the very, very ending, I'm not going to talk about, except to say that it's like what? It's like what? Like the ending.
There is. Let me not misspeak, but there is a second book, I believe. Yeah, there's a follow-up called The Fall of Colossus, and it was slated to become a movie. And obviously that never happened. It's really, just to jump off topic really.
Right.
I have found in the last like couple of movies I've watched that are in this same kind of like B-level, low-budget sci-fi movie, a lot of them end up being developed initially for television, and then when it's screened by the television station, they balk at it and say, "Oh no, that's not what we want now." We're more interested in Scooby-Doo now or something like that. So then they scramble to find somebody to distribute as a movie. And so I have a feeling that I remember watching this as a kid, definitely in the 80s and Saturday afternoons or at night kind of thing. But yeah, it definitely holds, a really solid like time frame, like a place in time, not only for like 1970, 69, but also like even the slow parts I enjoyed a lot, because these were modern architectures that they were using to just shoot them walking from the car to the building, which gave it that that sci-fi feel. It was not your 50s 60s construction
establishing shot.
Yeah. So really well done, but a shame that there was never a follow-up Colossus, because the ending really begs for it. But it also can be kind of construed as like, oh well, fuck us,
Right. If they would have said at the very ending to be continued, then it would have made perfect sense. But they didn't put those words in. They just put the ending, and so you're left wondering like, wow, okay. But yeah, it was. I recommend it. People should get into it if you can get a hold of it. I also, because I was off work all week, I watched a couple of bad movies. Not gonna lie. I caught up on Get Smart. I think this movie was about 15 years old. This was, of course, Get Smart was a very smart TV series in the 60s that was started by Mel Brooks, and it was a takeoff on 007. So this was a remake with Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway. So I watched it because Anne Hathaway was in it, and it did not disappoint. But as far as like seeing Anne Hathaway in outfits and stuff, but the movie was horrible, and that's all I'm gonna say. And it wasn't even that funny. Although they did have Alan Arkin in as like one of the head guys, and he was one of the young writers on the original series. Yeah, and so that was interesting. This is a movie that Kurt has been trying to get me to watch for a long time. Finally saw it, and highly recommend it. Love Lies Bleeding with Kristen Stewart and this bodybuilder, Edie O'Brien. It's an interesting film by an interesting director, Rose Glass. Rose Glass, I found out, has another picture that her first picture was called Saint Maud, and I have yet to see it, but I want to check it out because they say it's very indicative of her style of movie making, and that this follow-up was, kind of more like a commercial, endeavor. Ed Harris is in this. It's a really good story. It's centered around this female bodybuilder and this Kristen Stewart character whose family is really involved in a lot of criminal activities. The review here is hot, nasty, and mouth-wateringly disreputable. That pretty much sums it up. The thing to me about the movie, Kurt, was you kind of alluded to this, like what goes on at the very ending, and how it kind of breaks out of the storytelling format, right? And I'm noticing that in movies now more. You're watching this movie for like an hour and a half and something, and then all of a sudden it just breaks out of, kind of like the mode of realism or the mode of storytelling, and just to have something surreal. And, they do this a lot with dream sequences and, memory, scenes and flashbacks and stuff, but, they're just doing it like in the movie now. And so to me, that was an interesting twist. It kind of gets to the point where it gets comedic, like it's really, really serious. I mean, to me, it reminded me very much of like a Coen Brothers movie. And then, it was trying to be at times like a Quentin Tarantino movie. So
I even throw in David Lynch. I think a lot of Lynchian curveballs. The ending, I could have even had it go like maybe a level or two enhanced, like the ending to Mulholland Drive,
right.
where it's exactly like you said. You're taken through this very captivating movie, this very captivating story between two people struggling in life and finding love and all of this monotony that we call life. But then the ending makes you go, wow, do we take this thing too seriously? Like, quote unquote, the movie and our own lives? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just creates such a beautiful, dare I say, artistically poetic way of ending something. And I think it has to be done very, very well, very, very consciously. Lynch does that, Tarantino does that, and it is for the senses, the sensory. And speaking to millennials, they have in my opinion, most of what I see in their form of criticizing is the sort of like the setting the parameters up as, Well, that doesn't make sense because they said that, you know what I mean? They're very highly metacritical, if I'm allowed to use that term, meta. And that really bugs the shit out of me, especially when they're critiquing crappy movies that were obviously made, to exploit, the
Yeah, you got to get the
and
camp.
they're like missing the point,
Right.
type of thing. And I wonder if their own generation is now starting to find, because we were nihilists in the 90s, the Gen Xers, we had it down. We're the ones that brought, somebody like Quentin Tarantino to the heights that he's at because we embraced, the movies, but the dialoguing back and forth, for that, and everything else that's going on.
Yeah, so there was a couple of themes in Love Lies Bleeding that relate to Turbo Pit Fighter. Obviously, it's the first major motion picture in a very long time that centers around a very fit, built, muscular, athletic woman, which obviously Turbo Pit Fighter comics do, and the whole Turbo world, has a lot of enhanced women in it. I can't think of another example. You could talk about strong female protagonists. You could talk about Furiosa. You could talk about, Mad Max Fury Road. You can talk about, I don't know, like, Angelina Jolie movies. And, there are plenty of movies where there's a female heroine, but a bodybuilder, like a muscular, like, I mean, in Love's Like Bleeding, it wasn't even, they weren't even hiding the comparisons that they were making to the early Incredible Hulk series, right, Kurt?
Yep.
Right. They were like she would turn. She was taking steroids, so she would literally turn into the Hulk in some scenes, and then that was like a device that they kept coming back to. But are there any other movies like that? Like I hear of this, like there was this cable series called Glow, which I haven't seen yet. Gorgeous ladies of wrestling. But I don't know. It doesn't, it doesn't seem like, like a drama adventure type of thing. It seems more like of a comedy, like The Office kind of thing. I don't know. I guess I'll have to watch it before I pass judgment. But so that was the one theme. The other theme that maybe you'll pick up on this was the idea that you're breaking your family bonds. Right. So Kristen Stewart's father runs this shooting range, and he's like the local rich guy in the town, but he's also like this arms trafficker and, gun dealer, and he's got the cops on the payroll and all this stuff. So, she's kind of like estranged from him. And she's also taking care of her sister, who is being serially abused by her husband. And so Kristen Stewart has these kind of like family ties that are kind of like holding her back. And she lives this like really boring, monotonous life, working in this gym that her father owns. And, she's really an unhappy person. That's clearly portrayed. When she finds Jackie, the bodybuilder, who's really just this kind of like joyful spirit, this real, just kind of like up for anything kind of personality. She chooses like that. I won't spoil too much, but the Kristen Stewart character has to then choose between, her lover and her family. And, she decides to break the family ties. Obviously the father, they're after each other after, various intrigue happens. But, Kristen Stewart at some point, at a very pivotal, point in the movie, has to decide, about her connection to her sister. And so how does that relate to Turbo Pit Fighter? Well, we were just talking about how the pleasure robot in the future is going to, I believe, in real life, break down the family. Once the stigma is gone of men being able to have like a love doll in their closet, but meanwhile it's going to be a very sophisticated companion, that's going to talk to them. It's going to get deep. It's going to get their hooks deep into their mind. And the dehuberton ones are going to program the human, right, to fall in love with these companions. They are going to make human robot marriage legal in the future, and it's also going to like persuade them politically to support the company over the government. But the family is going to break down. We also have a part in the story. If you listen to this podcast, you get to hear all these spoilers, but there's going to be a certain point in the end of the world timeline where the dehubertons are putting chemicals in the water and the food that breaks down a human's familial connection. They isolate the genetic, genotype that represents family ties and represents the bond. Kurt, you'll be happy to know that I did some research on this in real life, and they do know what area of the brain this when they say like a mother's protectionism for her children, or like the difference between picking out a stranger in the crowd and your sister in the crowd. They have been researching this. They have isolated it. There are brain chemicals that are released, and a lot of it has to do with upbringing, but a lot of it has to do with just brain chemistry and heredity. And but basically in our story, the dehubertans are going to isolate that in a lab, or better, more accurately, they're going to steal the technology from scientists who have isolated it in a lab, and then they're going to put chemicals in the water to basically break apart family ties and break apart in human bodies and psychology and body chemistry, the things that keep us connected to our family. So that is in order to more easily control the masses, and also to get more men to join their army, the RN. So this is what I think about when I watch just a regular Hollywood movie. So sorry if I get a little bit carried away there, but working through the tabs here. Go ahead. You want to say something else? No. So
go ahead. I just I'm the lucky one here on the other side of the screen, and I just moved to page 18, which is the next set of 6 pages.
Okay.
That I'm giving what I refer to as my 80% inking. It's basically I get it. It's another way to describe it is that I'm bringing your pencils up to a point as if I would be completing the inking, but then of course I bring my tonal value system to the pages, which will most definitely be happening, if not starting next week, that following week. But the reason I giggle is we've been having conversations not only amongst ourselves but Alex Turbin, about this anthology, because we're looking at the next Turbo teaser. This is Turbo teaser number 2, where we're anthologizing. So I do kind of want to move us away, but I do see on your screen that you have Colossus, the Forbin project. So, but if you have something, I would like you to keep moving on that. I can kind of bring my piece in right after.
Well, I was just kind of recapping what I've been binge watching over the break, because I was off school for a whole week.
Okay.
But we binge watched the entire House of the Dragon season 2, and I don't have much to take away from that. It to me it was a big letdown as far as action. They definitely have some good CGI when it comes to the dragons, and they have lots of great character development and acting. But a lot of the themes kind of repeat the original Game of Thrones series. with these two houses fighting over, this, and everybody else gets affected and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I wasn't going to dwell too much on that. I was just wondering if you had anything, on House of the Dragon season 2.
No, I'm not. I'm just not interested. Mainly because of the ending of the main series. I am one of those who kind of has a bad taste in their mouth about it. I also personally, and it actually took a friend of mine a lot of convincing for me to watch Game of Thrones in the first place.
Yeah.
And I don't like long format fantasy. I think it's a contradiction in a lot of ways. I think it's necessary. I remember I saw every single Lord of the Rings, movies in the theater the night that they launched them in Philadelphia with friends of mine. And yeah, there's a spectacularness about it, but like, did I have to? I think also because of what I'm dealing with in Crom the Barbarian, the thing that I'm working on my side as a comic book artist and developing. I've been reading a lot of short story fantasy, and I just find that to be a hell of a lot better containment in getting fantasy across. I think I would rather watch, and I do watch a lot of costume dramas. Wife and I are very anxious about the last season of Outlander.
Right.
But I would rather just watch historical pieces in costume and all of its sort of like nonsense or what have you. Yeah, I don't, and dragons don't attract me. Nothing that has a dragon in it is going to sell me ever.
Right. Well,
it's just not. So I've yet to hear anything about House of Dragons. Here's the reason I actually started watching Game of Thrones. This buddy of mine at work goes, "Look, dude, you gotta start watching tonight." It was like Saturday night or something, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He goes, because the next episode you're gonna want to see, and it was the Red Wedding.
Right.
So I watch all the episodes leading up to that night, right? And of course, then that next week, you watch the Red Wedding, and I was sold. I mean, there was no way. I think the whole entire country or anybody, that's what sold everybody lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I've not heard anything come out of House of Dragons that equivalates to
no,
that.
it's more the same, slightly different characters and slightly different you see some good acting. I mean, to me, since you're a Crom the Barbarian guy, to me the big takeaway for me watching these would probably be, hey, I gotta listen to this dialogue, the words that they're using and the phrases that they're using,
it's just like old English. Like I said, I could just watch costume dramas, which I do.
Yeah, but they wrap it around. I mean, it's old English, but it's like, they use it in contexts, and it's interesting when you hear it a lot, how it's used, how it's different, and kind of like the formality, like, they have like this big distinction between the highborn and the small folk, right? And the language that they used, I believe, it's intentionally supposed to be flowery, and this went all the way up till, I guess, like, the 1700s. You had like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, everybody would, they're trying to write in this flowery language, which is supposed to like somehow elevate what you're saying, make it more persuasive, or, show that you're educated or whatever, and so, because like the common, people are just like, squeal like a pig, and then these other people are saying, verily it is thy most, coveted, blah, 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 so like, just, the use of language would be interesting, because if you're writing dialogue for Crom, you want to make it fit the period. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, but there's no period in sword and sorcery per se. And also, I am kind of dealing, which is a really good topic to come down on in a future episode, because I do have a script that I'm going to be sending you very soon that I want to spend some time with you on air, separately from making Turbo Pit Fighter, probably a video for Crom the Barbarian. That does back into our writing these short scripts, 6 to 8 page short scripts,
Yep.
and then giving them away for free to get people involved in not only Crom the Barbarian, but also Turbo Pit Fighter's world. But real quick, you just also jostled me. I watched the only season of a television show from 2016 called Beowulf: The Return to Shieldlands, and it was amazingly similar to the beloved Hercules and Xena series. And to me, that's how fantasy should be done, even with lo-fi CG. I think there needs to be this jostling, this thing that's constantly making you feel disconnected from it when it comes to fantasy, because that's what it is. It's just fantasy. It's not trying to become reality, though I think a lot of people, in maybe the way they deal with anxiety, want to get the hell out of here. And so video games and movies and comic books, can lead you, if it's in a long form saga epic type of story with multiple characters and doing it. But on Amazon, it's part of the Prime situation.
Okay.
And you can watch it for free. I think it runs commercials sometimes in the beginning and sometimes in the middle or something, which is not evasive. But if you're a total Hercules Xena person, you got to check this out, because it's almost like it holds homage to it, but even its language I enjoy more than imprinting off of Old English aristocracy, medieval type of stuff, which they throw in there. I'm also the reason I actually gravitated to this and gave it a chance was I've been reading a lot of Icelandic stories and the sagas, and of course they're translated because they were written in Icelandic, Norse, that type of thing. But even they're not flowery or colorful. If anything, I'd like to have them be a little bit more rough in the way they use their language. The Anglo-Saxon, bad words, being outlawed, and therefore you can't say fuck shit. You can't say those words because they were outlawed by, the English aristocracy for not being
So you're recommending the Beowulf series on Amazon Prime, and it's campy in the vein of Xena Warrior.
It's a good story.
Okay.
It's a good story. It's a good story. There's a couple of places. The ending actually had me guessing all the way to it, and then when it happened, obviously, and I'll kind of spoil a little bit, they wanted a second season, so they did leave you at the end. But when you're dealing with the Beowulf saga, it was self-contained. So they did excellent writing. So it is a whole season where you're like, oh, okay, cool, that was Beowulf. It was just in this more, playful television series type thing. But, dealing with Grendel's mom, but they add in trolls, and it's cool. It's cool. It's very cool. So, that's where my fantasy goes toward. It's not House of Dragons. I don't think it ever will be, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't mean you can't have a good time watching that stuff.
Well, we're all looking for everyone's looking for what to watch. I did hear I did see an announcement online that Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings is coming soon to streaming. So that's going to be nice.
That'd be nice to watch again. I used to rent that like once a year from the video store.
I've seen it so many times. I
love it.
when it first came into the theaters, it was only in one theater in New York City, the Ziegfeld Theater, and I must have seen it at least 5 times in the theater. I just went by myself. My mom dropped me off. She was working she was doing some stuff in Midtown, dropped me off, picked me back up later. I was like, just keep dropping me off there. So that's coming soon. I mean, I think I think there's a real shortage of 2D animation in this country, in the world, and that there's very, very few examples. I mean, Ralph Bakshi is probably my favorite animator of all time, and this is probably the best thing he's ever done. Is the Lord of the Rings. Unfortunately, he didn't get
Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is better.
Well, Lord of the Rings was a lot more commercially, popular. Fire and Ice is so cult, people don't even know about it,
Right.
And also, there was a tie-in to, such a major property. It was like literally the most popular literary work in England. Voted again and again and again. So. You're gonna see that. I mean, when Peter Jackson came out with his live action versions, I guess it kind of went away as the go-to, for people to see the story in movie form. But up to that point, I think we're talking about like 1977 until Peter Jackson's crap came out in 2000 something. So, yeah, I saw the Peter Jackson stuff again. I can't watch it. To me, it doesn't hold up. To me, the face masks and everything are all fake. For the orcs and stuff, it just looks like just cheap makeup. It doesn't look like good CGI or anything.
I think it really needs to be watched in a movie theater. Like I remember seeing them and being like, "Whoa!" You leave going, "Whew, man, that was pretty wild," because you can't stay focused on anything other than just getting dragged along. But if you're watching it, at home, and you can stop, go to the bathroom, get another thing of popcorn, you know what I mean? You can kind of give it a little bit more analysis. Yeah, it starts falling short of expectation, especially because of the books. You're dealing with another form of entertainment. It's not books, comic books, book to comic book to movie or television. Those are very centralized ways of telling stories. They're not all the same. There's very little actually in the way the process is similar, and it's on purpose. If one was less than another, it would disappear. It's just unfortunate that comic books as American made, have fallen into shadows of manga, Japanese manga. But God bless Japanese manga because they're pushing their medium to tell word and picture stories in a format that they're very equally proficient at as we are. But
oh man, it's amazing. I was at a
wake the up.
I was at the mall and on Black Friday. And don't ask me why I went on. I went because
Newberries.
No, I didn't go. I didn't go to the comics. I avoided the comic store, but the mall was packed. It was like the busiest day of the year, and I went there because I heard it wasn't very crowded. And then by the time I got there in the afternoon, it was very crowded. But well, my wife and kids went to the mall first thing in the morning, and it was dead. So, but because I guess everybody had a late start, but it definitely picked up by the time I got there. So anyway, I just wanted to comment, like, what we're seeing, like, there isn't just one store there that's selling Japanese toys and brands. It was maybe like 5. There's hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. There's this one store called Hello Tokyo. There's we literally have like a Sanrio shop. I don't know if it's Sanrio, but a shop with like there's nothing but Sanrio in there. We have obviously there's Spencer Gifts, and like Hot Topic and all that, and a lot of the stuff that they're selling in there is manga at this point. But I was at this other store. What was this called? I got the bag right here. It's called FYE. Have you ever heard of FYE? Yeah, so there's this FYE now, and they have, it's everything there is branded. So like you go in these little stations, and there's like a station for, Terrifier, the new movie. Then there's a station for Nightmare Before Christmas. Then there's a station for Hello Kitty. Then there's a station for the Addams Family. I mean, all these different things. And there was a lot of horror in there. And it seems like this is a store that's trying to meld, the cute little stuff of like the Hello Kitty stuff and the Squishmallows and that. And then they're also trying to blend in kind of like the edgy, like horror theme stuff, like all the toys and t-shirts and hoodies and everything from all these, kind of like,
emo.
Yeah, exactly. The emo crowd. And then
EDM.
And then there's all of this, like, just, Japanese manga stuff, like Bleach and Death Note and, I don't know, My Hero Academia and just like everything. So there's a whole store of this. And, I ended up buying some hoodies from clearance because they were only like, I literally paid like $6 for a hoodie. But, they have all of this stuff, and they have toys in boxes. And I saw some people there that were really, really tempted to buy these unopened toys in boxes and just hold on to them because, they feel like, oh, well, everybody knows now. Well, if you get it and you never open it, it's going to be worth a lot of money one day. And, and figurines, right?
35 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. These damn figurines. These damn figurines, that are selling. So like big figurines, right? Like you can get a big figurine of every character in every latest movie, and if you're the one that holds on to it, without opening the box for 35 years, then you're gonna make out. But
hoarder.
Yeah, but what we're seeing is we're seeing the Japanization of a lot of American culture, and the kids love it. The kids love it, and the 20-somethings love it, and the 30-somethings love it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, parts of it.
Parts of it, yeah. I love the old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really love watching manga or anime, but Godzilla movies are great, and there's always something to find, like Ninja Assassin. I like the cult stuff. There's plenty of great art. There's everything in between, from cartoony to very realistic and stylized. So everybody should be able to find what they want, but they're a very, very creative society that really, really values comic books. So who am I to I mean, I like European style better. I like heavy metal style better, but who am I to begrudge anybody? And and as an art teacher in middle school, I really embrace that the kids love these manga characters and that's all they want to draw.
Yeah.
And
that's the most positive thing that culturally that's bringing is that it's like the what is it, the final fraction or fiction or whatever that dollar store stuff. Where is it?
The final
faction.
Something like that,
yeah. But I keep going on and on about it. It's just all the interviews we've done so far, I would have to say 9 out of 10 of them, 90% of them, at the store, coming from the doctor, mom or dad buys me a bag of comics or bought me a toy that had a comic in it, and I was hooked. And I have not been able to, alleviate that as, an obsession now in my 30s, or 40s, or we're in our 50s. There's just something that ends up connecting us to the medium. And then if you want to pursue a life in the arts, this can become something that you end up, struggling at just as much as you would want to struggle at trying to become a painter or a sculptor or a musician, or, it's expression. And I think that's just such an amazing thing, for going on out there. Just to throw the time on us, we are at 1 hour. The one thing I do want to touch on for maybe a couple minutes is Alex Turbin contacted me to ask if the two of us wanted to do a 2-pager as a contribution to an anthology. I guess they're speculating right now. And I said, of course, I got to talk to Jake. I'll do it, on a Sunday. But I really just want to drive us straight to a proposed idea. Would it behoove us to commit to, let's say, 2 pages of, somewhere between, this and this, like a info dump, sequential matter. In comics, like we used to see 1-pagers, which was like the life of the Neanderthals or the life of a bear, and it would be, sequential looking pages, and there was a loose, obvious connection between them because it was talking about, cavemen, but it was doing these like, blurbs of info dump, for going that way. Or would we want to just make a 2-pager story that's tied into Turbo's world as a contribution to, somebody's anthology, whether it was Alex Turbin inviting us in, or, as we've kind of been touching and alluding to, the market being more heavily drawing for people probably in anthologies than, single issues. What do you think?
I don't know. I think my first question is, what's the theme of the anthology?
He has. I think they're still working on it, and I think the thing about it, and this is definitely an experience that I've had with like Alex and a couple other people. It's like, hey, do you wanna? And try to get enough people to say, yeah, I would like to, and then it kind of formulates from there. So I haven't gotten an update, but I think it's an all. Let me just double check the message.
Is this a comic? Is this a Toilet Crew anthology? Or
I believe so. I believe so too.
Okay.
So he said, I think you'd like to be in a monthly anthology and contribute 2 pages a month, either you alone or with Jake. I said, what was the theme? No theme, or right now, and then they're working on I guess a title for it. So speaking to Alex Turbin, if you're on YouTube, just do a search on Alex Turbin, and he's got a great station. I watch him. He's like one of the top 3 people that I'm always looking forward to his videos and everything. But he's also somebody who's pushing the medium, and he's trying to figure things out, not only for himself, but he is a strong contributor to the zine culture and everything. So it's interesting. I don't know if we could do monthly. I don't know if it actually benefits us, and I think that's the word I've been searching for, Jake. Would it benefit us to put a 2-pager together? Maybe not as detailed per se, even in the story, to cause us a little connection.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely lean towards a yes for any of that, but especially just like a one time to just reach into that world, and then just try and say, hey, we're here over here. But the thing I love about Alex is, and Alex has his random access series and his Mutandis series for a long time, is that he's Mr. Prolific, and he just keeps cranking stuff out. I love that. Like, just put it out and see. Like, put it out.
Yeah.
He's encouraging us. I think what would behoove us, and also if we're collaborating with Alex or maybe others too, is to get our Turbo World anthology off the ground, even if we're doing the 2 pages, a month, let's say, and just have it building up and building up and building up.
Okay.
Because when we do a 2-pager and we put it into somebody else's anthology, we don't really have the thing to bring them over to yet and say, oh, by the way, we have this thing for sale. Like, we don't want to be selling our teaser. We want to be selling our, when we finally have something, more substantial. I mean, maybe our next teaser is the pages of the anthology, but we could also just as easily take some sci-fi from the Substack.
But my take on that is I don't completely agree with that as a approach, because the worst case scenario is they'd find our YouTube channel and become a subscriber.
True.
But more importantly, a fan and possibly a contributor on whatever level, because we've got the Doom mags,
That's a good point. That's a good point. You could bring them over to
what I mean? I don't want to ostracize. I just don't want to ostracize how we're going about doing this.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could, if the goal is to bring people over to the YouTube and to bring people over to the Substack, then that actually is a good end goal. So yeah, just say yes for now, and then but if there's no theme and we could just do whatever we want, then just verify that, and then we'll talk about it next week.
Cool. That's exactly what I wanted to accomplish, Jake. So I'm good. Like I said, I'm on page 18. There's no reason I can't put the final flicks and flutters on there. I would have to get these. I have to get these pages scanned at this point because I am archiving at this layer, a good high-res scan, and moving from there. But I'm super excited because we're already blocked into the 6 pages for another teaser. Could be an anthology. Looking for contributors. I just posted the doommags.substack.com. Just to get on and type it in and find it. Thank you for being a part of the community and watching us, because we had a couple people, like 3 to 4 people, pretty much for the whole hour hanging with us. Remy Winter, John Molina, King Megatrip. They were nice. All in and out. So want to thank you. And, it's why Jake and I are doing this, is to stay on point, keep ourselves putting out pages, but also connecting with, our tribe.
So folks, tribe. If you want to read some free sci-fi, go on over to our Doommag Substack. We are going to be releasing the 3rd chapter of 3 of the Showdown at Reenpaw's Farm, featuring Lou. And there's some art there and story. Then that should hold you till next week. But we'd love to hear anybody's feedback, because it's the first time we did kind of like a 3-chapter kind of inclusive story arc that goes to 2202, and that's when society is still breaking down, but a couple of characters there, and you guys can check that out, and feel free to to give us your reviews. It needs more of this, less of that, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And check out our other series. We have Comics That Influence, where we're doing flip throughs and stacks and hauls. And our indie creator interviews, which are going to be revving up again sometime soon. So that's it for today.
That'll be next month.
Yep.
I just have to say, there was a huge response to Nathaniel J.K.'s interview. And I was given some comics, but also a lot of praise through Instagram. And you have been heard is really what I said. So I've already built our list. There's about 8 or 9 people on that list, and they've all properly gone through the right channel, which is I have a form on kurtbrugel.com for you to fill out. It just keeps everything very organized for me in order to then reach out to people starting in January to line out. This is also something Jake and I have to discuss probably next week is I still have copies of Turbo Teaser 2, so we might want to just keep staying on that and then migrate easily into Turbo Teaser 3. Or the Anthology Turbo, whatever it is that we end up getting into to get to people as that exchange go, because it is called the Indie Creator Exchange. So it's talking about comics and obviously who's making what and going from there. So very cool. And also, I do go back through the list, and now our list is, I think, 30-something people now. And so I will reach out, and it's all based on people having something new to share and put on there. And Nathaniel J.K. is on that list. So we'll be looking forward to connecting with him. But all the interviews were amazing this year, and I am getting super excited for 2025 and IC3 March 15th. Jake and I will be there, having seen each other in the flesh for the first time in 23 years, I think it's been. So photo ops will be free this year, but after that we will be charging $1, Jake and I, to
or food.
Yeah, for being out of our caves. But that's what I got, Jake. Let these people get back to reading comics, making them if they choose.
No problem. Check us out on social media, folks. Doommags.com. No, what is it? Doommags on Instagram, on Twitter. There's actually Doommags on Whatnot now, so you can buy the teaser on. And then see us back on YouTube. So bye, everybody.
See you next Sunday, Jake.
Later. All right, I gotta run to the bathroom.
Oh, it makes 2 of us, old man. Makes